Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Obi, a social work specialist. Today, we will show you how to effectively conduct, write, and apply the most effective psychosocial assessment. Whether you are a social worker or a case manager, a therapist, a counselor, a social services practitioner, an educator, a first responder, military, or a clinician, this video is for you. Today, you will learn what a psychosocial assessment really is all about. In addition, we will explore psychosocial assessment examples, and based on multiple requests that we have received for a free checklist, we have included how you can get access to a free downloadable psychosocial assessment template. Let us start with 6 mistakes we see people making again and again when doing psychosocial assessments. That way, you can avoid these mistakes. So, the first mistake we see is people using vague or generic descriptions when writing the psychosocial assessments. So, for example, sometimes people will say things like, or they will enter things like, client is anxious. Well, instead of writing client is anxious, you want to describe the behavior, the symptoms, and also the context. Another mistake we see is practitioners ignoring client strengths. So they are focusing only on the problems. Now, when you focus just on the problems, you make the psychosocial assessment feel one-sided, and that really limits your intervention options. A third mistake is practitioners rushing through the questions. Surface level questioning misses important psychosocial details, especially about trauma, support systems, and coping strategies. Another mistake we see is people applying a one size fits all approach, failing to tailor psychosocial assessments to the client's culture, age, or background can lead to disengagement and inaccurate conclusions. Here is another one: overlooking social and environmental factors. Housing, income, racism, and systemic barriers might be part of the picture and something for you to consider. Another one is treating the assessment as a one time task. Psychosocial assessment needs to evolve. Assessment should be reviewed and updated throughout the client's care. And everything that I just talked about, I included in the free detailed guide. The link is at the bottom of this video. Let me introduce you to Sarah. Sarah is a newly licensed social worker hired at a very busy community mental health clinic. On her first day, she was handed a patient file and told to complete a full psychosocial assessment within the hour. She started to panic. What questions should she ask? How much history is enough for her to put down in the psychosocial assessment? She was also worried. What if she forgets a crucial detail? Like Sarah, a lot of practitioners struggle to feel confident in writing and conducting psychosocial evaluations. And that is what we aim to address with this video. Let us start out with what exactly is psychosocial assessment. Psychosocial assessment is a process used in social work, therapy, and mental health to gain a comprehensive understanding of a person's emotional, social, cultural, and environmental circumstances. Psychosocial assessment helps professionals like you identify the factors impacting a client's mental health, behavior, and daily functioning. And it serves as a starting point for creating treatment plans, connecting individuals to services, and recommending appropriate psychosocial supports or interventions. Social workers, case managers, and clinical workers, they use psychosocial assessments to get the full picture of a client's life, not just what's happening now, but how past experiences, relationships, mental health history, and environmental stressors all connect to their present challenges. Let us go through a real life example. Now, for this particular example, we are going to be talking about Jason, a 42-year-old man. He was hospitalized for depression. And the psychosocial evaluation that was conducted didn't just record his diagnosis, it really uh, went further. It examined his difficult relationship with his teenage son. It assessed his history with substance abuse. It assessed the fact that he had lost his job recently and his entire childhood is really influenced and impacted by trauma. One key aspect of this example, which I am showing on my screen, is this point right here, in that this holistic picture that a psychosocial assessment provides, it really allows, whether you're a social worker, I know the example we are using here on my screen is just talking about a social worker, but this is applicable to any clinician, any, you could be a therapist, a counselor, a mental health specialist. It really allows you to go from just addressing the symptoms to really addressing what are the root causes that are contributing to this issue, to this situation. So in this particular case, referring Jason, who we are using as part of our example, to therapy, helping him with housing support, helping him apply for housing support, and reconnecting him with parenting programs are actually helping Jason address the root cause of the challenges and the issues that he's running into versus just trying to address the symptom. On this guide, we've also provided you with the step-by-step details in regards to completing the psychosocial assessments. The first step here you will see is you want to identify the basic information, right? Age, name, gender, pronouns. You want to enter those into your psychosocial assessment. Who's referring this particular individual, why were they referred to you, are things you also want to include. If he, she, or they have any insurance information, you also want to include that. Case number is another thing you want to include. Most importantly, a lot of practitioners do not realize this is important, but what is the individual's primary language? You should also include that as part of your gathering, identifying information. And here is an example. Jason M., a 42-year-old male, referred by ER after expressing suicidal thoughts, right? Primary language, English. And then the second step is presenting the problem. So you want to summarize why the client has come to your facility to seek help or why they were referred. Here's something that is very important. You want to use their own words where appropriate versus you going in and just writing the problem without stating how the client is presenting the problem. So here was an example prompt. What brought the client in today? Client reports, I just can't get out of bed anymore. Everything feels pointless. So you are stating clearly the client is reporting this particular issue that they are running into. Okay. Step three is to capture the psychological history. So you want to ensure that you are documenting any current or past health related situation, or even therapy, hospitalization, medication use, and also diagnosis. You want to ensure that you are capturing all of those. And here is an example history of MDD. Client was hospitalized in 2020 for overdose. Reports current use of sertraline, though inconsistent adherence. So that's one example of how you can document psychological history. The fourth step is social history. This is also an area in which we see practitioners that don't do a good enough job of documenting social history. So you want to make sure you are exploring relationships as part of your psychosocial assessment. You are exploring and documenting social support, living arrangements, and also daily life. So here's an example of a documentation about social history. Divorced, lives alone, limited contact with teenage son, no close friends or family nearby. The fifth step in completing your psychosocial assessment is documenting the family and developmental history. And this includes family relationships, school experiences, early trauma, any abuse or neglect in their background. You want to include those. And here is an example of a documentation for family and developmental history. Client experienced emotional abuse during childhood. Father was incarcerated, left high school at age 17. Step number six, you want to document medical history. As an example, diagnosed with diabetes and hypertension, no current physical limitations reported. Those are things that you want to document. Step number seven, you want to document any substance abuse or use. And that includes current and also past use of alcohol abuse, drugs, or even tobacco abuse, frequency, duration, and also impact. And here is a documentation example. Client reports heavy alcohol use from ages 24 to 30. And the client relapsed. So with relapse in 2023 after job loss, currently sober 4 months. Here's another step to completing your psychosocial assessment, legal history. This is also very, very important. If there are any past arrests, you want to document that. Probation, you want to document that. If the client is experiencing any ongoing legal issue, you want to also document that. For example, client arrested twice in 2019 for DUI, no current legal involvement. Here's step number 9. Occupational and educational background are things you want to document as part of your psychosocial assessment. Job history, current and also previous, you want to document those. How satisfied or how happy are they with their job situation? You want to document that, as well as education level. And here is another step in completing your psychosocial assessment, strengths and coping skills. You want to document those also, specifically because all of these things that you are documenting will lead into putting together the most effective plan, care plan for the client that will help the client mitigate the challenges that they are running into. So strengths and coping skills are things that you want to document. And here's an example. Client finds meaning in music and walks outdoors. motivated to reconnect with his client, with his son, not his client. Here is another step referred to as mental status examination, MSE. It really provides a snapshot of the patient or the client's current emotional and cognitive states. So, for example, you are documenting things like appearance. How is the client dressed? What are their physical appearance? Right. You want to document things like those. What kind of mood are they in? You also want to document those, as well as any orientation kind of information that you can gather. You also want to ensure that you are documenting those. And here's an example. So, in this example, the caseworker documented that the client was avoiding eye contact and having that flat effect. They also documented that the thought process seemed logical but slow. They also noticed that the client wasn't sure of the exact date, and so they documented all of this information. And one thing to emphasize here is that we believe completely in being HIPAA compliant and also protecting patient and client details. So every individual reference in our video today is an illustrative case study, fictional, a character. So if anyone has any questions about does Jason really exist, Jason is just a fictional character created for our particular use case. Okay. All right. Now let us discuss how psychosocial theory really applies. Psychotheory, as you can see on my screen, is really shaped by the interaction between psychological needs and social environment. And this is important for us to go over as part of this psychosocial assessment because understanding the theory itself actually helps social workers, therapists, counselors, one, address the entire being, not just the symptoms, right? So you are looking at the complete picture of the person versus just addressing the symptoms that they're presenting to you. It also helps to develop the appropriate intervention and care plan to help support this individual. And it ensures that the treatment plans that are put together really reflect the real life situations, the barriers, and the support that the person is actually faced with. So here are some key steps that you can actually take right now. One of them, download the free checklist. Uh, we have included the link to this guide at the bottom of this video. When you click on it, I will show you where to download the templates. You can use any template, or you can use the ones that we are providing to you. It is free. Practice filling out the psychosocial assessment using the examples that we provided. You can use Jason as your own use case. Complete the 12 steps that we just went over to help you effectively practice completing a psychosocial assessment. And like I said at the beginning of this video, the steps we're actually showing you are things you can start using today. Okay. Now, what we are going to discuss next are some of the key psychosocial assessment questions you should consider asking. And I will go over this very quickly because we don't want to make this video too long. We want to cover high level information and then give you the opportunity to review the guide and then come back to us if you have any questions or feedback. So, in presenting the problem and documenting that, here are some key questions you can ask to the client. What brings you in today? How are things been going for you recently? And is there something specific that made you decide to seek help today? And you can also practice with others before you actually need to have a real life situation with a client. That way, you can, because the more you can be natural when asking these questions, the better it will help a client feel comfortable. Okay. Now, when asking questions about mental and emotional health, we have provided you with examples here. So, for example, how would you describe your mood lately? Do you have any trouble sleeping, eating, or concentrating? Are just few examples of psychosocial assessment questions that you can ask. And then something you will notice down here under medical and physical health, we've also included a few examples of questions you can ask. And then substance abuse, we also have questions. Do you drink alcohol, use tobacco, or use any recreational drugs? Is one example of a question. And we also have a few more questions here. In regards to family and developmental history, a question could be, can you tell me about your family growing up? Another question can be, did you experience abuse, neglect, or unstable housing as a child? For examples of questions you can ask to gather social support and relationships questions is, who do you turn to for emotional support? Have you experienced relationship violence or isolation? Do you feel connected to your community? What about questions for living situation and environment? Here is one. Where you currently living, do you feel safe there? Here is another one. Are you concerned about eviction or your ability to pay rent? What about education and employment? We have a few questions here that you can use. Here is one of them. Do you feel your current job or lack of one is affecting your stress level or well being? What about legal history documentation? Here is an example of a question you can ask the client. Are there any legal issues you are currently dealing with? What about finances and economic stability? Here is a question. Do you have any debt or financial stress? That is a question you can ask the client. We also have two other example questions listed here, including, do you currently receive any financial assistance or benefits? And are you able to meet your basic needs? Are questions you can ask. What about coping and strengths? One question could be, what are you proud of about yourself? Another question is, what gives your life meaning right now? And then in regards to cultural and spiritual identity, a question can be, do you belong to any faith community or cultural group that offers you support? And then for your practicing, we've included this example here where you can see how we have populated or completed how to address kind of sample responses. So when asked, who do you turn to for support? Our fictional character Jason replied, honestly, I don't have anyone. I haven't talked to my son in 6 months, and I don't feel comfortable leaning on anyone. These are responses from Jason. But what does it tell you, the professional? It tells you that, okay, Jason is experiencing social isolation. Okay. It also tells you there is a key family relationship to explore, the one with his son. And it also tells you that there is potential for psychosocial interventions. And we listed those interventions here. Now, your task that you can do today is this. You visit this guide. On this section here, where we have your task for this particular section, we've included some key activities that you can practice with before you actually get in front of a client. And then you are remembered the free downloadable psychosocial assessment example template that I mentioned. Well, when you scroll down here, we have included a lot of the videos and articles that we publish are really based on requests from individuals like yourself. So the things that people really want to see or want to learn more about, they normally make comments on other videos that we've created, or they send us a message via our contact us page. The point here is this: if there are any particular topics you would like to learn more about, or if there are free resources or checklists that you would like us to develop, don't hesitate, let us know. Leave your comments below this video. And don't forget to also like this video, as it helps others identify that this video has been published and is beneficial to everyone in the community.